So welcome, I'm Jeff Smythe, I'm the police chief. It's extraordinarily nice of all of you to join us this afternoon. We're going to promote a number of people in the police department. And as we get started, the first thing I'll ask you to do is please rise. We're going to present the colors, and that will take place.
Please be seated. Oh, that's much better with that on, huh? As we get started, I'd like to recognize, firstly, my boss, Arden Watkins, the city manager. He's here. I also saw our mayor, Ian Baltunis. He's here. Great. We appreciate y'all being here and supporting our efforts today. It's a very significant event today for the police department. I checked, and the last time that we promoted an assistant chief was in 2012. So 6 years ago was the last time that we promoted an assistant chief, and today we will promote someone into every sworn rank of the police department except the police chief. So that tells you the breadth of the activity that we've been undertaking in our succession plan, our leadership and development succession plan to promote people in this police department. When I took office a little over 5.5 years ago, I was told that we had a number of people retiring in the next few years, and that window was a 5-year window in which we would virtually replace every single lieutenant captain and assistant chief in the police department. And today is the culmination of that effort as we have retired successfully, and to their great joy, I think, assistant chiefs and captains and lieutenants, and some folks have all promoted. And so today marks that kind of landmark where everybody has shifted, and we have, I think, finalized a transition of the culture of this police department, which is remarkable. And so I'm very proud to hand badges to, over the next hour or so, all of the folks that we'll promote, and then 2 civilian promotions as well, and we celebrate those at the same level that we do for the sworn staff. Normally, we would perhaps start at the bottom of the rank and file and move our way up and culminate at the end of the ceremony with an assistant chief promotion. But today we're going to turn that on its head just a little bit. As both assistant chiefs are being promoted, we thought it would be appropriate for them to be promoted, and then in their role as assistant chief, be present and participate in the promotion of all the other folks that will come after them. So that's the order of the ceremony today that you see in your program. And for those of you that have witnessed this before or not, here's a reminder of the proceedings. So for each promotion, I will invite forward the person who will introduce the promotee, and they will spend a few minutes introducing them and talking about their career. And then we'll present the badge to the promotee, and then the family member will come forward who's going to pin on the badge of the promotee, and we'll do some quick pictures as those go, attempting to give our best sides to the camera and make sure that we get a good photo op. And then people at the exit will exit that way off the stage and return to their seats, and we'll continue in progression in that way. So that's kind of the hierarchy and the order of remarks. So the next thing on the program is an opening prayer. So Chaplain, will you come forward and take care of that for us, please?
Father, we love you. We're thankful for the opportunity to gather here this afternoon, and particularly to thank you for our police officers, police department, for the officers and the civilian personnel. It is a joy to be a citizen of a community, knowing that the police department is the finest in the state, and we thank you for that. We thank you for the commitment of our officers and the civilian personnel that make it what it is. We thank you for Chief Smythe and his leadership, and we thank you today for these that are being promoted. We know that they have worked hard to get to where they are, and we just pray your blessings upon them and their new assignments, and for each and every one that you would just continue to watch over them, continue to protect our department, our officers as they're on the streets, as they are there to protect us and to serve the community. We do pray continue your hand to be upon them, to protect them, to keep them from harm, give them wisdom and guidance to do their job to the best of their ability, and just bless them and bless their families. We pray in your holy name.
So before I start with the two promotions, there's two additional bits of recognition we want to do. So if you are in the audience and you're a retired Burlington police employee, will you please stand for us to recognize your service? The next group that I want to recognize and actually have you stand, so this is, the spark is there's a young person crying in the back a little bit. And how many of us have kids? Raise your hand if you got a kid. So we are about family in the Burlington Police Department. I have in my pocket this little heart my daughter gave me probably a decade and a half ago that I carry with me to remind me of my commitment to my family. And our families actually allow us to do what we do. So I'd like to have every family member stand for a moment. If you're a direct family of a police officer, please stand. Thank you. We know that you think about us all the time when we go off to work, and it's so important that you're there for us and that you're there for us today, or here for us today. So thank you very much, and for the role that you'll play in this ceremony today. So I have the great pleasure to promote two assistant chiefs today, and I can't do that effectively without making a comment or two about Chris and Eric, who were the former assistant chiefs. So I have not known the Burlington Police Department until very recently without Eric and Chris in the offices adjacent to mine, leading this police department. And they have performed at an exceptional level for 5 years prior to their retirement. So it was with a great deal of trepidation that I stepped into the process to try to replace them in some way and select two individuals who could continue to lead this police department. And as I have embarked on my leadership journey here in Burlington, I made a commitment to attempt to delegate to the best of my ability and push downward many of the operational tasks of the police department. And so it's an incredibly important decision. Who are the two individuals who are capable to be assistant chiefs much of the time, and when I travel, the police chief, and are competent and have the right heart and the right character to manage this police department in its entirety at the level at which we operate here in Burlington. And at the end of the selection process, it was eminently clear to me that both Brian and Chris were of the character and of the capability to step into that role. So today we will celebrate the promotion of both of those individuals, and I can't speak more highly about their ability to lead this police department. Sometimes people ask how busy I am and how often I get phone calls at night, and I think they're a little surprised. I mean, I'm certainly busy during the day, And I joke with the staff sometimes a little bit of minesweeper, some solitaire, I get through the day, right? But I sleep well at night because these two guys have to field the phone calls. And that's the role they play as assistant chief. That's how important they are, that I don't have to answer the phone at night anymore. They answer the phone and they manage the police department 24/7. So having said that and framed that, they both asked that I introduce them, so I'm going to introduce Chris Gaddis first. And you'll recognize some similarities in the bios as I go through this. Both of them were hired in 1995. So Chris was hired in 1995, attended the BLET. He's got a 4-year degree, a criminal justice degree from East Carolina University. Both of them have graduated from the FBI National Academy. Chris graduated from the 270th class just a year or two ago. He's served in divisions all across the police department, has supervised a number of components, was a field trainer, supervisor, radar instructor, general instructor, incredibly broad background as a police employee. He's on the executive board for the Piedmont Leadership Academy, part of our commitment to succession planning and leadership development. And then, as you'll see with both of these men, involved in community as well. He's on the advisory board for the State Employees Credit Union, executive board for Ralph Scott Life Services, and involved with the United Way of Alamance County. His wife Marlo, son Mason, and mother Sharon are all here to celebrate his accomplishment today. So Chris, if you'll come forward, I'll present you your badge, and then we'll pin that on you.
She doesn't know it yet, but I've asked, I'm asking her now for my mom to come up here. In my badge. So I had a conversation with my wife about who would do the pinning for me, and she told me that my mom got to pin my first one on it, so she said she was going to pin my last one on it, so I'm assuming this is my last promotion.
It is my life.
So Mom, come on up here for me, please. Sure. It's very humbling to be up here. I can't appreciate Chief Smythe so much. It's unbelievable the faith he has in my ability and judgment to take over this position. It's great to have a cohort in Brian Long. We came in the first day together, and we've bonded over the years and really got a good working relationship. You know, we don't always agree. We have some pretty good conversations at times, but at the end of the day, we do this organization, our staff and our employees as top priority, and those where decisions are made. Looking back on it, I didn't realize it until the other day, Brian, but 25 years ago this week, I had my interview with John Glenn to become a police officer. I didn't know a soul in Burlington. They didn't know me. I pretty much begged and pleaded for a job. And luckily, Chief Glenn gave me the opportunity. Here I am. I pick with him every time I see him that we were his best recruiting class, and that probably up to debate at times. There's a lot of people who have helped me throughout my life and my career. I do want to mention a few, and if I don't mention your name, it's not an insult by any means. You know how much you mean to me. First and foremost, my mom and dad. Great role models for me and my sister. Unconditional love, commitment, showed us hard work and positive rewards. They really taught us it's more about, not necessarily about what you do, but how you do it, how you do things. There's a gentleman in the room, retired Lieutenant Lynn Rohr, his wife Linda. They were neighbors of mine growing up, and he was essentially the first law enforcement role model I ever had. It was interesting to grow up. I didn't know what I was learning at the time, but I really got to understand what a law enforcement family was all about. I got to see a uniform and a patrol car and the commitment and sacrifice, and I think that really is where I got my first itch for being a cop. Some others that really were notable folks in my career, in my life, was retired Captain Ron Hall. He was captain over the training division at the time when I was hired. And he always was very supportive of me, and to this day is a friend that I can call on and spend time with, and has an open ear to many discussions. Next is my training sergeant, my training officer, Sergeant Amy Isley. She was my field training officer. And I don't know why we were paired together. I guess maybe they felt like that she could break a bucket bronco or something. But she did a tremendous job of leading me down the road of teaching me the basics and then keeping me in check, and we had a really good time. Another one I definitely need to mention, the best cop by far I've known in my career, and I've never met anybody that's a better cop, and that's retired Sergeant David Poston. Leaps and bounds, the best cop that I've ever worked with, ever known, but a greater man. Kirk Puckett, he's been a tremendous part of my career, giving me a good opportunity to talk through conversations, bounce things off of. Always good ear, but always one to hold me in check. Next would be, comes to mind is Captain Steve Smith, retired Captain Steve Smith. We were both, I was a young promoted sergeant. Steve was a promoted captain. We had some very heated discussions, some good calibrations, but we both made it through and learned a lot from each other. Others that assisted me along the way were the retired Assistant Chiefs Eric Kearns, Chris Burdett, Greg Seal, Major Tim Flack, and numerous other members of the agency. I really do appreciate it. To my son Mason, 14 years ago this week, we brought you home. Your mom or I made us the happiest parents in the world, and we're so proud of it. My wife Marlo, as many of you know in this room, that being a spouse of a law enforcement officer is not easy, not tough. Excuse me, it is tough, it's not easy. A lot of sacrifice, a lot of devotion. It's unbelievable that the unwavering support you've given me throughout my career. I do think that it's important for all of us to have a great work-life balance. Those of you who work here, we do expect you to work hard, but also life comes first. Marla, you've been a huge supporter of me, and I love you for it. I'm going to quit rambling. I'm going to land this plane here in a second. But we're very fortunate to live and work in a great community. Burlington's been extremely supportive of me personally. Took me in as their son, neighbor, and I didn't know a soul when I got here, but this is my home. I am so proud to work here. I've traveled across the country, met many people across the world in law enforcement. Bar none, this is the best agency in the world, without a doubt. To the staff, have faith in me. I've got faith in you. I love being a patrol cop. About 19 years of my career was on the streets. I was voluntold to move up elsewhere. But as we all know, it did open my eyes to some things, but I'm here to support all of you. Thank you.
So the next promotional opportunity is Brian Long, also to the rank of Assistant Chief. And I think you heard Chief Gaddis talk about the dialogue between the two assistant chiefs as we make decisions. And that dialogue includes from some of the captains. So our command meetings every Monday are myself, the two assistant chiefs, the 4 captains, and the accreditation manager. And I think that we make great decisions because we don't all think alike and we don't all perform in a similar manner. And an example that's very striking to me at this point is one of these assistant chiefs had the forethought to print some of the comments in a larger font, and the other one did not. So the variation in the performance is striking every single day of the week. But at the end of the day, the product that we generate, I think, is exceptional for the city of Burlington. So, Brian, if I get any of this wrong, it's your fault. So Brian is most proud of his 3 daughters, Amanda, Delaney, and Brianna. His wife, Melissa, is here with him today, and he specifically wrote that she has a very high level of tolerance, and that's much appreciated. So that's in the notes for me to say. I can only imagine what he's going to say. His parents are here, his in-laws are here. He's got a remarkable local support network that includes a good bit of knowledge about policing, and I'm sure that has helped him along the way. Brian also was hired in January of 1995. He has an associate's degree from ACC, and he's very involved with Alamance Community College, very supportive of that entity, as we all are. He has his criminal justice degree from Mount Olive University. He graduated from the 258th class of the FBI National Academy. That was back in 2014. He also has served in virtually every assignment across the police department, managed different divisions, and has done so at a high level. As the patrol captain several years ago, he was the springboard for our intelligence-led policing effort, which is all about using data and focusing our efforts on the most prolific offenders in our community. And that effort 2 years later now has resulted in a 20% crime reduction. Violent crime reduced 20% in Burlington because of our ability to take occasionally limited policing resources and apply them in a focused manner. We kind of call it spear fishing as opposed to fishing with a net, right? A very direct approach, and that has exceptional value to us across the organization. His community involvement includes being prior board president for Crossroads. He's on the ACC Alumni Council, and he's also a United Way board member. So he and they both are very involved in the community. So Brian, if you'll come forward to be promoted.
I'm gonna let some of your family please come up. Most of the morning filing the tip of that thing down. So the opportunity to be here once again, as Assistant Chief Gaddis said, is overwhelming. And we talked about the differences, and I think that's the benefits, is me and here vastly difference. Here's his work product to come to get ready, and here's mine. Mine came to me as I drove here this morning, and I started on the drive in, which is about a 15-minute drive, I started thinking about just the opportunity, and how did I get here? That's really kind of the question I was asking is, how did I get here? And I guess I call it like the story of you can. But I'm going to have to take you on a little adventure for just a few minutes. Bear with me while I do that. I'm going to start with the fact that I was a competitive cyclist. I know I just finished standing sideways. You don't see that. But I used to be a competitive cyclist, and that started off with a bicycle converted into a racing bicycle, put into the back of a Honda, driven about 3 miles from my house by my father. And I got put out on the side of the road. He didn't leave me, but he put me on the side of the road. I'd never cycled before, and that was the first day. He was smart. He put me on top of a hill, where the first half mile was very easy. But he rode beside me in that Honda all the way back home. And we did that time and time again until one day he decided that the next best idea was to take me to Washington, D.C. to race. Cycling's not a huge U.S. sport, but there's a gentleman named George Hincapie that ended up racing professionally with Lance Armstrong. George at age 10 was 6 foot and already shaven. I was 4 foot and not near 100 pounds. But that day, my daddy told me, you can do it. 46 years old I am now, and both I recognize, thank you, but we both knew I couldn't do it. I crashed right off the start line. Didn't even make it the first lap before I crashed. But the point is he told me that I could. Fast forward many years through high school, probably not, a lot of people say that for there to be a top half of the class, there needs to be a bottom. I played my part during high school. But moving forward, it was time to find a career. I already had Amanda, she was young. And I showed up just like you did in front of John Glenn, and I asked for a job. High school diploma, no education beyond that at the time. But I knew I had a work ethic. I just didn't know that I had to prove it to him. But he gave me the opportunity to prove that to him. At that time, when I was hired, his assistant was Bill Gregory, now my father-in-law. But John Glenn told me I could. He said, you can. Bill probably wished he said, don't do it. I hope that's not, I think that's the case really, but after I started at the police department, Chief alluded that I'd been moved from division to division, which I did as a young officer and got an opportunity to work across the police department. And everywhere I went, I was told, you can. Go to be a DEA task force officer. That's a pretty prestigious opportunity within our law enforcement culture. Quite intimidating for a guy, but I was told, you can. And I hopefully represented during that assignment well, along with the other ones. But we asked earlier for everyone to stand up that had previously worked here. Billy White, Captain Taylor, Assistant Chief Kearns, Puckett. So long ago we don't, a while back we still remember you and still consider you family. But they've all had an impact. Kirk's had impacts, good and bad. Mainly good, but if you know Kirk Puckett, then you understand that joke. He's a mess, but I sincerely am humbled as well for a guy that comes from outside of our community originally, show up in our community. He's the chief. The cards are in his hands. He can go outside. Go outside and shoot anybody he wants to. You know the numbers, what is it? Thousands of law enforcement officers, qualified law enforcement officers across the country. He could have done that, but he didn't. He had faith, and he's selected us, and we'll stay committed to trying to do the best job we can. Thank you, and appreciate the support throughout the years.
occasionally a moment presents itself, and I think this is the moment that I want to talk to the back 2 rows of the auditorium today. I see a lot of very shiny new badges on some bearded but some clean-shaven young faces. And as you pay attention, hopefully, to the rest of the comments and the rest of the people that come forward, the image that is presented by these 2 chiefs of humility and care and the courage it takes to share emotion in the most appropriate of places. You know, we would have said 3 years ago that this police department had a bit of an attrition problem, that folks were leaving for a variety of reasons. And I think we fixed that, and I would encourage you all to embrace the longevity of the career that you have, the calling that you have received, and recognize that it really is possible, and you can. And if you're in a place in the organization where you feel like, wow, man, that's a long way off, imagine that future as you could be sitting on this stage being a captain or a lieutenant or an assistant chief or even the police chief. The incredible impact that you have in your community today as a police officer is exponentially increased as you join the ranks of leadership in this police department. And this police department is the best police department in America. If you want to spend 10 minutes afterwards with me, I'll share with you the accomplishments of this police department that are remarkable because of the men and women wearing badges and the men and women wearing ID cards that work in this police department. And so I'm thrilled that enough of you came today to make this worthwhile and support the people, the sergeants probably above you that you respect that are getting promoted today, as well as others. So thank each of you for being here. I hope it's an impactful session for you the rest of the time as we listen to the comments from the incredible men and women who lead this police department. So thank you for that little divergence on my part, but I felt the moment was right. The next promotions that we are going to make are for 2 civilian personnel. The first one is Denise Jones. Denise has selected Captain Todd Long to introduce her. Todd, will you come forward, please? And Denise, will you make your way up here at the same time?
Kind of big too, so I can see. Get ready to keep.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce Denise Jones. Denise's family is with her today. Her husband Wes Jones, daughter Ava Jones, mother Brenda Sipe, and I think her father Buddy Sipe is here to correct. He didn't make it, but he's still here in spirit. So. Some of her hobbies, she's like spending time with her family, friends, and cooking and gardening. She graduated from UNCG for Bachelor's of Arts in 2000. Denise was sworn in as a police officer on May 3rd, 2002, and received her Advanced Law Enforcement Certificate on May 20th, 2011. She's been with the department for 16 years. During this time, Denise has held many hats. As an officer, she worked a bunch of crazy schedules and responded to a bunch of crazy calls. In speaking with her fellow co-workers, she was described as being a handful. Yeah, it was some pretty wild stories. And never met anyone that was too big to arrest. I think on a couple of those occasions, I witnessed some of those arresting incidents as working with her. She worked in the Criminal Investigation Division in the Special Victims Unit and investigated serious crimes that had a tremendous impact on the quality of life for many. I had the pleasure of working with Denise in the Criminal Investigation Division, and she truly made a difference. For anybody who knows anything about criminal investigation and the Special Victims Unit, those individuals, they work some of the toughest cases that you could possibly ever think about as a detective. They're very trying, they're very hard, and she did an excellent job at it. After CID, she transferred to the Evidence Unit and worked as a crime scene investigator. As a crime scene investigator, she responded to some of those calls for service. She processed many crime scenes and worked a bunch of late hours. She was promoted to Evidence Control Supervisor in March of this year and handles all the wonderful duties as the boss. Be careful what you ask As I mentioned before at the beginning of my speech, it was my pleasure to introduce her, but I also have the pleasure of supervising Denise. She's dependable and constantly leads by example. And what I mean by that, Denise and I had a recent conversation, and I told her that she can't stretch herself too thin. And she was working a lot of hours, she was leading by example, and I could kind of tell it was taking her toll on her. And I told her that we appreciate the hard work. She got promoted because of her work ethic, but she kind of had to have that balance. For any of you that recently got promoted, you understand what I'm talking about, and she does a wonderful job. She has a great attitude. I can't think of any day that she hadn't come to work. She always has a smile on her face, always has an open door to any of her employees, and she does a great job of leading up and putting me in my place when she needs to. So, all of these traits make her wonderful to supervise. And if any people out there who's been a supervisor, it makes my job really easy. So Denise, I'm very thankful to have you as one of my employees, and congratulations on your promotion.
The next promotion is Megan McCann, and she's going to be introduced by Garcelle Hadley.
Good afternoon. It's with great pleasure and honor that I'm introducing this promotion. This, in my humble opinion, is one of the most deserved promotions that I've witnessed. Megan has with her today her husband Kyle and her mother Tammy Wagner. Megan McCann was hired as a telecommunicator in 2014 and made her way to records in 2016. And what a landing she made. Megan came in on fire about record keeping. She wanted to know what could be destroyed, scanned, or kept. Meg's initiative and leadership impacts those all around her. Megan does not monotonously perform a job. She looks at how and why it works and what can be done to make it better, which leads us to where we are currently 2 years later. Is anyone seeing this pattern? 2014, 2016, 2018? Okay. There's an old proverb that says, to strike while the iron is hot. However, I like to borrow from Oliver Cromwell's perspective when describing Megan, which is not only strike while the iron is hot, but make the iron hot by striking. This takes me back to Megan's first evaluation period, when she told me her goal was to work in such a way that everybody in the department was going to need her. Megan more than delivered on that promise. Megan currently, she works on the Clean Data Committee. She's on the Chief Advisories Board. She's a scribe for the executive staff. She was instrumental in organizing, compiling, and developing the department's annual report. She's heavily involved in the department's fundraisers. This year alone, she has had 43 outstanding Guardian trackings. And this year alone, she too has worked overtime 510 hours in communications just since January. And the list goes on and on, but Megan wanted me to keep it short. Megan does not sit back and wait to be sought out. Her matter-of-fact way of thinking and her strong work ethics causes her to be sought out. I, for one, am definitely looking forward to hearing about her next 2 years. Last but not least, Megan also caused this saying to backfire: given enough rope, one will hang themselves. With that opportunity given to Megan, she used her lasso to corral others by challenging them to strive to be the best that they could be and for the betterment of our agency. Please congratulate me and Burlington Police Department's Records Supervisor, Megan McCann.
for believing in me. There's a ton of promotions today, and I look forward to working with every single one of you. You're only going to hate me some of the time, and you'll only regret promoting me for some of the time, but we'll get through it together. So, thank you.
For the record, I don't regret promoting her at all. She's already been active in records for many years, and we look forward to her steps. Marcel, when do you retire? It's pretty quick, isn't it?
It's coming up soon, February, official day, but I'll be not around much after Christmas.
Okay, good. She's got plenty of time. You know, Chief Long mentioned, and I think it's apparent here, we have opportunities to do outside selection processes, and we often find that the internal candidate is the most qualified. And that's a tribute to all of the staff here that develop each other in a comprehensive manner, making them the best choice, the most obvious choice for me. Many of the promotions we make are the simplest decision I'll make in a month, is that this is the right person for the right job. And for Denise and for Megan both, it's exceptionally clear how well suited they are for the positions they're stepping into. And so we look forward to your contributions to the organization moving forward. Thank you both. We'll now shift gears and move on to some sworn promotional opportunities. We have 6 sergeants to be recognized for promotion. One, unfortunately, had a family emergency out of town, so Lori Cato will not be here to be promoted during this ceremony. But I think I need to share with the group that you can have all the assistant chiefs and all the captains you want, but your police organization does not succeed without your sergeants. And so there's no more important promotion taking place today than the 5 people that are being promoted to the rank of sergeant. They make or break this police department. They are the first line supervisor for the most critical worker bee literally in our country. No single occupation impacts Americans like police officers. And the ability of our police officers to perform at an exceptionally high level is accomplished absolutely because of the presence and guidance of their sergeants. They make or break the operational life of a police officer, and therefore they make or break the operations of a police department. So as you celebrate the moment for each of these folks as they come forward and have a badge pinned on their chest to be a police sergeant, recognize that they are the cog that keeps Americans safe. So with that framing, the first sergeant that we'll promote is Donnie Animette, and he is going to be introduced by Chief Chris Gaddis.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce Donnie Animette. He's a native of Alabama, and prior to him coming to us, he had a unique career in that he worked in the lumber industry. And we pick with him all the time about wood and ask him about trees and things like that. But, he worked in management and supervision in the lumber industry, but got that itch to be a police officer. His family moved to North Carolina, and he took it upon himself to put himself through basic law enforcement training. He basically was unemployed for a while and put himself through school and was committed. We were fortunate enough to hire Donnie in 2009. I was very fortunate enough to have him as a rookie officer on my platoon, on my shift when I was a sergeant. I took a liking to Donnie, liked his work ethic, his commitment to the organization. Throughout his career with our department, he has been very proficient in a tactical officer, very officer safety conscious. But the neat thing about Donnie is that he was always on point to a T. He was very, very thorough. He had a strong interest in driving while driving while impaired enforcement, DWI enforcement. He also took it upon himself to become a very unique position called a drug recognition expert. And during that program and that training, you have countless hours of spending time to understand how to recognize impairment of all levels in different types of people. A very, very difficult task to do, and we're very proud of what he was able to accomplish. During his time of being a DRE, he was recognized through the state of North Carolina, received many awards, recognizing him for his DWI enforcement, and he received a couple of awards through MAD, through that program as well. He got an interest in going into the special response team and served for 3 years with that team. During this whole time period that he's working, he thought about going back and getting his education. And he took it upon himself, as many of you know, as a full-time employee, trying to juggle things at work, and he took it upon himself to go back, and he obtained his associate's degree in criminal justice. Very difficult to do, working with a family and all that. He then was able to spend about 2 years in criminal investigations, working in the Special Victims Unit. Very difficult caseload there, very difficult types of cases that you investigate in that unit. Donnie was on point again and working diligently and thoroughly in that. Donnie asked for me to talk about this, but something that happened to Donnie a couple of years back is he got injured on the job. And I kept up with Donnie just like many of us did, took care of Donnie, made sure that he was okay, but it was a very trying time for Donnie personally and his family. But with the grace of the Lord, that he was able to work through a lot of that, and he's back with us full strong, so we're very proud of that. He has received numerous commendations, thank you notes, thank you letters from many citizens, fellow officers. So many things it's hard to even comment on, but the biggest thing about Donnie that I want to talk about again is that he's extremely humble and a very dedicated person. He's very active in his church. He's a youth leader, and he's a deacon. And coming to the stage here will be his wife, Tricia, son Gabriel, and daughter Lily to pin the badge up. Thank you.
Dinner's going to be served in about 20 minutes. That's it.
She gets to come alone.
Well, I figured I can't stand up here and not say anything, so here I am. I didn't write a speech. I'll keep it short and sweet. I can tell you that this is a very humbling experience for me. First of all, I want to thank the chiefs for giving me the opportunity. It's a privilege and an honor to serve not only this department, this city, and God in this position that I'm in right now. I want to say that I couldn't be here without, first and foremost, God. I thank God, my family, mostly my wife. My BPD family, y'all are all important to me. I just want to say I truly believe that we do work for the best department in the entire world. I'm living proof of that. During my struggles of a year and a half or so, probably, you know, looking back, I haven't worked a full year since 2014. If I can make it to December 31st, I believe it's 31 days of December. This will be my first year. Like I said, this department, they could have got rid of me, traded in for somebody new and better, but they stuck with me, and I am forever grateful. Thank y'all.
The next promotion is Sergeant Jeremy Coleman, and he will be introduced by Sergeant Shane Brown.
Up here. All right, today I have the pleasure of introducing Sergeant Jeremy Coleman. Jeremy is just about 4 months shy of being with the department for 20 years. Jeremy is a native of Alamance County, graduated from Eastern Alamance High School, and went on to Appalachian State where he got his Bachelor's of Science degree in criminal justice. During Jeremy's time at the BPD, he's worked on in various positions on patrol as well as in criminal investigations. He is an instructor with the department, and he also teaches at Alamance Community College through the LET program. And I believe he's one of our longest tenured FTOs in the department. Jeremy is a graduate of the North Carolina Justice Academy Management Development Program, known as MDP. Aside from being promoted today, I think it's also worth mentioning Jeremy's oldest son just started college at UNC Charlotte, where he is studying computer science. His middle child, Emma, recently got her driver's license. She's a junior at Western Alamance High School. And his youngest son, Jack, started middle school this year and has become a Fortnite master. I know he is extremely proud of his children. That's why I wanted to specifically mention them in this. Congratulations to Jeremy. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Emma and Jack on stage.
Things are best to be expressed in a song, so if everybody will, I'm just kidding. You know, it's everybody's mentioned humble, and kind of goes along with the same thing. To be in this position, it's been a trying time. You know, folks know the struggles I've been through as well, and to be given the opportunity to do it and make it better has been very beneficial to me. I'm a big quote guy. I love quotes, and there's two quotes that I really enjoy, and one of them is, and I'm going to paraphrase, it's, you know, no one is an individual. You're a piece of everyone you've ever met. So for me to sit here and to thank everyone that's ever influenced me, we'd be here
till tomorrow. So you know who you are, you know what you meant to me and what you continue to mean to me. And the second one is, you know, no man walks through the same river twice. So he's not the same man, it's not the same river. And that just shows growth and change and becoming a better person and a better man. So thank you for the opportunity to do that, and thank you guys for being there for me.
The next sergeant to be promoted is Russell Henderson, and he will be introduced by Lieutenant Shelley Ketkowski.
So about an hour ago, me and Russell were in the equipment closet. I forgot my tie, so he was putting on my tie for me. And I said to him, and I'm the one introducing you, so go figure. Russell started his law enforcement career in 2003. He spent 2 years at East Carolina University, and then he began his career at the Burlington Police Department 13 years ago. 2 days ago? You got your 13-year mark. Russell has a bachelor's of science degree in criminal justice at Guilford College, and he recently just got his master's degree in criminology from Florida State University. Very impressive. Russell has worked 3 years in the Special Operations Division doing gang and narcotics investigation, as well as he just finished a 1-year stint in the training division. Over the years, Russell obtained the following certificates. He's an advanced law enforcement certificate from the state of North Carolina. He's a general instructor. He's a field training officer. He's a drug recognition expert. Assistant Chief Gaddis talked about the dedication it takes to have that achievement. And he's also a standardized field sobriety testing instructor. So for you that don't know what that is, Russell's worked on several committees, use of force, uniform, Chiefs Advisory Board, safety, technology, FTO. Obviously, there's many more things that Russell has done over his time at the Burlington Police Department, but I've had the opportunity to work with Russell for many years. I don't think I was in patrol when me and Russell didn't work on the same team. So the one thing I know for certain about Russell is he is passionate about policing. He loves his job. Russell is a go-getter. He's proactive. He doesn't wait for bad things to happen. He stops bad things from happening. And that's one of the reasons that I gravitated towards him. He is very knowledgeable about policing. And not only that, and I think many of you guys can contest this, I can't recall a single time where I've asked Russell to help with an investigation or a case or a project, and he didn't come on board with it. And that's just him loving what he does. I really look forward to seeing you pass that knowledge, Russell, and I'm proud of you. Congratulations on your promotion. And his mom, Louise, and his dad, Bob, are here, and his fiancee, Claudine, as well.
absolutely honored to be up here. I never thought when I became a police officer that I would ever want to put anything on my sleeve other than just a patch up top. I really love working the street, a passion for drug enforcement, DWI. But as the years have gone on and I've gotten older, I've figured out that I can't do it by myself. I can't be a one-man war on crime. It just doesn't work. So getting the chance to help develop and lead the younger generation, folks back there at the back of the room, I'm absolutely humbled and honored to get the chance to do that. say enough thank yous to my mom and dad for supporting me, letting me live with them while I went through BLET, because I couldn't afford anything otherwise, and Claudine for putting up with me every day I come home with some kind of story. So thank you all very much, and thank you, Chief, for the opportunity.
The next sergeant to be promoted is Graham Sappington, and Lieutenant Katkowski will do this introduction as well.
Trying to take my notes. Testing me. All right. Graham started his law enforcement career in 2005, and he had spent all 13 years with the Burlington Police Department. Prior to coming to the Burlington Police Department, he served in the Air Force in the Security Forces unit for over 5 years. Graham, who has several credits towards his degree at Guilford College, promised that he was going to finish his degree by the end of next year. Correct? Yes. Graham has worked in various divisions within the Burlington Police Department to include patrol and the community crime abatement team for 3 years, and then the training division for 7. So if you do the math, you can tell that Graham spent over half his career in the training division. During his time in the training division, Graham has obtained the following certifications. He's a general instructor, physical fitness instructor, subject control and arrest techniques instructor. He teaches firearms, force on force, reality-based scenario instructor, officer survival, and he teaches verbal judo. So I think you guys can see by that list that Graham does a whole lot of teaching. He's a very well-trained officer. Also, Graham spent 11 years, and he's still a member of the Special Response Team, where he's been a team leader of that unit for almost 4 years now. In addition to everything he does at the Burlington Police Department, Graham too works for ACC, and he is actually the lead PT instructor for the Basic Law Enforcement Training Academy. So what that means is every 6 months, Graham gets about 25 to 30 cadets from all over the county. It's just not Burlington. And he prepares them for the rigors of police work. In the 5 years that Graham has been doing that position, he has had a 100% passing rate for the final test, which is the police officer's physical abilities test. We call it POPAT. So most people in here know what that is and how challenging it is. So that's just a very impressive thing that he's been able to do with that program. And because of that, he was named the Employee of the Year at ACC in 2016. I too had the opportunity to work with Graham the majority of my time in the training division as well as special operations many years ago. And as impressive as everything is on the paper, one thing about Graham is that he truly loves helping other people get better. His success is measured by the success of others and what he can teach them. And so the failures. You know, he takes it personal, and he makes sure that he gets everything right when he trains people. And, you know, I got to work closely with him in the training division, and I know that Graham is a big reason why Burlington is one of the best trained agencies in the state. So congratulations, Graham. In the audience with him today is his mom and dad, Heather and Larry Sappington, his wife Candace, his little girl Ruby, and his son Max.
Well, I'm still on with everything else. I feel humble and handsome right now. It's been a long road. Thanks, Pop, for saying that you wanted to be a police officer. If you'd done anything different, you would have you would have been a law enforcement officer that planted the seed. Thanks, Mom, for always being compassionate, towards humans and animals. I appreciate it. Thanks, Assistant Chief Long and Assistant Chief Burdick for always giving me kind, guiding words and smacks in the back of the head. Whenever needed, keep me along the right track, keep me out of trouble. I definitely appreciate it. And thanks for Candace for all the patience, for all the times the special ops get called out, times SOT get called out. I can't always be there with the kids. I appreciate all your patience, all your hard work, and allowing us to happen. Thank you, everybody.
And last but absolutely not least on the sergeant list is Jeremy Seppi to be promoted to sergeant, and he will be introduced by Lieutenant Jeff Kaloji.
I did type something out, and it is a little bit long, but I will go quick. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and members of City Council. I have the honor and privilege of introducing Sergeant Jeremy Seppi, who requests I speak on his behalf and give some background. Jeremy attended Northern Illinois University, where he initially studied business, but changed it to sociology when he began thinking about his career choices in life. It was then he began to develop an interest in law enforcement, because he had a desire to make a difference and a positive impact with society. He and his wife Kim is here today. They've been together for 23 years. Relocated from Illinois in 2008 to Whitsett, North Carolina, where they reside now. Their two children are here. Brendan, who's a junior at NC State, and their daughter Haley, who's a junior in high school. While in North Carolina, Jeremy found employment with the Greensboro Police Department, where he served there as a patrol officer from 2009 to 2011. As luck would have it, he decided he wanted to work for a smaller, dare say better department that was closer to home and room for growth. So he applied here, and we hired him in 2011. I've had the distinct honor of working with Jeremy in several different capacities. I first got to know him in 2016, while assigned to the Criminal Investigative Division, where he served as a detective in the Special Victim Unit, and later moved over to the Property and Person Crimes. Jeremy was an excellent and instinctive investigator who's always looking for different ways to solve his cases. While as supervisor in CID, he displayed excellent leadership and was always one of the first ones to volunteer for more complex and tough assignments. He was able to organize his fellow detectives and take the lead with the investigation and accomplish the task at hand. Based on his hard work and leading from the front, I moved him into an on-call supervisor position where he excelled further with his leadership. That was normally for our rank structure, was usually reserved for a master police officer, and Jeremy was currently a police officer too. So it just says something about his character and his leadership, to be able to put him into that position. It was during this time that Jeremy became interested in being promoted, and he began seeking out different supervisors throughout the department, trying to learn and grow in his career. He was promoted in June of this year, and I was fortunate enough to have him assigned to my shift in patrol. Serving as an officer at this agency, Jeremy's been recognized for his efforts in many ways. He was awarded a Class B commendation in late 2013 when he helped an individual who was contemplating suicide and intervened and prevented it. While in CID in 2016, he received an award for excellence after working a series of homicides over a short period of time along with other detectives. In April 2018, he received a critical incident award for responding to an incident. The individual was firing a gun and threatening family members. Based on his response and other officers, the situation was de-escalated and the subject surrendered to the officers without incident. Jeremy is one of those people who know I can count on regardless of the situation, and I'm always assured he'll do the best job and communicate regularly. He truly makes my job easier, and for that I'm very grateful. Even though I'm technically a supervisor, we're coworkers, and more importantly, friends. So without further ado, my friend and colleague, Sergeant Jeremy Seppi.
My wife Kim will be pinning my badge. Well, thank you. I don't know if y'all heard this, but I too am humbled for this opportunity. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be part of the leadership here at BPD. Thank you to the administration for believing in me and giving me this chance. Thank you to my family for being part of it and seeing through it along the way. I made the right decision coming here from Greensboro. This is a great department to work for. I've had a lot of opportunities, and I'm going to cherish this opportunity to continue to mold all the young officers that we have here with us. So, thank you.
We'll next move to our lieutenant promotion, so don't go far away, Jeff. You're coming right back up. So Lieutenant Jeff Kaloji is going to be introduced by retired Captain Brett Taylor. Brett?
Good afternoon. I want to begin by telling you it is an honor to speak on behalf of any of these officers and any of these employees who have the opportunity to be here today. I'd like to thank Jeff Kaloji for the privilege of allowing me to tell you a little bit about him in 17 years of law enforcement. Academically, Jeff's got an associate's degree from Seminole County College in Florida and a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from Florida Atlantic University. He's married to Megan, who is here, and they have two wonderful children. I had the opportunity to meet Haley and Dylan. His law enforcement career started with the Delray Beach Police Department in Florida. He spent 4.5 years there with that department before migrating north with his wife Megan in February of 2006 to continue his career with Burlington Police Department. We are honored to have him. During his almost 13-year career with the department, he has served in the Patrol Division and Criminal Investigations Division. He was promoted to corporal in 2008, sergeant in 2015. In addition to his current duties, he is currently the team leader for the hostage negotiation team. During his career with the Burlington Police Department, he has received numerous awards and commendations, and there were a few that I just wanted to mention to you today. The first one was in April 2007, where a victim wrote a letter to the chief complimenting Jeff for very specific skills, which I believe are worth mentioning. The victim commented that Jeff put them at ease when they were speaking to him. He was very attentive, great listener, had a great attitude, and showed genuine concern for her in the situation that she was in. 2 years later, another victim wrote to the chief, complimented Jeff on his investigative diligence, investigative skills. In this case, Jeff recovered thousands of dollars worth of stolen property for that particular victim. They were very grateful. March 2011, Assistant District Attorney Lori Wickline complimented Jeff for his investigative skills, excellent testifying ability, on a serial rapist. It's pretty important stuff. She prosecuted the case and couldn't have done it without Jeff and his investigative ability. That particular person was sentenced to 32 to 40 years in prison. 2 years later, the district attorney complimented Jeff for his work on another rape case. The district attorney specifically mentioned Jeff's exceptional investigative skills, excellent interviews, outstanding report writing, and his superb testifying skills in superior court. In that case, Jeff's investigative skill helped convict the defendant of second-degree rape, 2 counts of attempted second-degree sex offense, and they were sentenced to 47 to 55 years in prison. That's a wow. In November 2013, Jeff received the Officer of the Month Award for his work on a robbery case. Quite honestly, it was a relatively easy case to solve. But the issue is that Jeff went ahead and took extra time and found out this person was guilty of 3 other robberies. March 2015, he received the Burlington Police Department Award of Excellence for his work on a large and reoccurring larceny spree. He coordinated a surveillance operation that resulted in the arrest of the suspect, who he caught in the act when they came back to do it again. January 2016, a teacher from East Lawn Elementary School, Mrs. Holland, complimented Jeff for the kind and professional manner which he demonstrated while taking her larceny report. Thereafter, Jeff went to East Lawn Elementary School with items to replace the things that she had stolen, that he paid for out of his pocket. Mrs. Holloman commented that she could not believe how nice Jeff was to have gone above and beyond his duties to perform such a kind and caring gesture. Here's the interesting thing about most of these events. Jeff and I met on Monday to discuss these things, to make sure I had all the information, make sure I didn't miss anything. And as I was reading them to him, he couldn't remember most of them, and it's not that he was forgetful. He said, I honestly thought it was just part of the job. I think that's what most people do, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. Well, it is. Once we completed going over the material for this presentation, we talked about other items, and a few other things came up that I thought were noteworthy. Jeff didn't intend for me to write these things down. He talked about looking after the officers that worked under his command. He talked about how that's something that he wanted to instill in his sergeants, which are the important part of this organization, because they make it all work. They teach us all how to be the police. He said that is his philosophy, that he wants to teach his sergeants how to do it right. He wants to instill that in his subordinates, which shows me a great deal of leadership ability from Jeff. As we continued talking, Jeff mentioned a certain scheduling issue he and his two sergeants were working on with their teams. Before I had a chance to ask him why he was doing it that way, he said, and quote, I want to teach them the right way. End quote. If you remember the commendations I read to you, the comments that I've made, you'll hear words that describe a man with a servant's heart, who looks after his people and wants to teach them the right way to do things. What better qualities would you ask for as a leader? It's my pleasure to introduce you to Lieutenant Jeff Clutch.
Thank you, Brett, for coming up here and the kind words that you spoke. I truly appreciate it. I appreciate our administration, again, for the opportunity. There's not a whole lot that I can stand here and say that others have not already said, but I'm not up here just because of me. There's so many others that have helped me along, who have encouraged me. A huge thanks goes to my wife Megan for her support, for her understanding over the years. Everybody knows in here that the schedules that we have, the demands that are placed on us, and just I cannot do it without her, and it's just huge. So to her, I'm forever grateful. I've had a lot of influences in my career that have helped me progress along and get to the spot where I'm at. To those folks, specifically, he's not here, but Sammy Epps was my last supervisor before I was promoted to sergeant. And that's somebody who and I think most people who have worked with Sam know the caliber of a leader that Sam is. I've worked very hard over my career and will continue to work, and hopefully one day will be half as good as a supervisor that Sam is, and even though he's retiring. But to everybody who's helped me along, to the current Sergeant Coleman, Sergeant Seppi, you make it a joy to come into work every day. The leadership that you guys display, working with our very young team, do an excellent job. But to everybody, I thank you. Have a good day.
The next promotion is Lieutenant Nick Wright, and he will be introduced by Assistant Chief Chris Gaddis.
So Nick and I have a couple of things in common. We're both natives of Guilford County, and we've saw the light and ventured over this way. But, Nick has a Bachelor of Science from UNCG in 2007. We were fortunate enough to hire him in 2008. He went through BLET at Guilford Technical Community College. He graduated, started in field training on my shift. I was a young supervisor. He was a young officer, and he worked through field training on my shift. I took a liking to Nick. He is very steadfast, quick learner. Those of you who work for Nick know that you can ask Nick for just about anything, and he's very responsive. It's especially grateful when you're a supervisor and you need that response immediately. Nick's a go-to guy. He worked through various different positions throughout his career. One of the cool things for Nick is in 2010 he became certified as what we call a motor officer. That's a motorcycle. One of very few that had the opportunity to ride the motorcycle. He still rides today. He spent a year in special operations, vice and narcotics. During that time period, he worked in different capacities, but bought dope, sold dope, got a lot of people arrested for dope, so he had a lot of fun there. For a number of years, he was a field training officer. I think that's, as you noticed here today, through a lot of different officers that had that role in their careers. I think it's important that we recognize Nick's ability to train people. Nick's also a general instructor, a driving instructor, a rapid deployment, and also a motorcycle instructor. And he has the great ability to take a raw subject, whatever it is, and mold that in and teach that person small steps into growth. That exemplifies what he's done as a patrol sergeant. He took a very young staff, was able to mold them into a great working team. He's worked through that, and throughout his career, each step of the way, he's been able to take each step and work steadfast to making himself better than the others around him. He's an active member, current sitting member of our special response team. He's a team leader. I think he enjoys that role, one of his many hats and many functions that he has. He's got numerous commendations from his work ethic, and most notably, just being Nick. One thing that stands out in my mind, that there was an anonymous letter written, not necessarily an anonymous letter, but there was a letter written to our newspaper a couple of years ago, and it speaks volumes of who Nick is. And the lady wrote to the paper that she was having a pretty bad day, and she was at a local convenience store where she was crying in her car. Two officers walked up and started speaking to her and realized, worked through some issues with her. Well, Nick didn't let that go. Nick went inside the store and came back out with a Slurpee and offered her a Slurpee and tried to buy her a meal. And one of the many things that Nick and many officers do every day, but countless times I've personally seen Nick do things like that. And now his team has done that, and the officers that he worked with. So I'm extremely grateful that Nick is in this position where we've got a great young leader in our department that molds our staff every single day. I'm very proud of being able to recognize that Nick is promoted to lieutenant. He's got a beautiful family today in the audience. This is his parents, Joe and Debbie Wright, his wife, Jessica, 4 children, Maddie, Corey, Bradley, and Nicola will be up here pinning the badge on his shoulder. It's often said you're only as good as the people that are around you. That's true from parents growing up in a good home, show work ethic and integrity, thank you. To the staff that I've been around over the last 10 years, particularly the last 2. Millennials has been used as a bad word, but I'll tell you that the team we have now and had last year are the hardest working, most energetic people I've ever seen. We have a wonderful time at work, so thank you to you guys. Tom, Sap, and Donnie I work with now. You guys make my job easy. Thank you. Richard, I saw you earlier. Make things interesting from time to time. We've been through a lot in a short period of time, but I truly enjoyed and learned from you a lot. So thank you. And to my wife, who's always there when I get up in the middle of the night to rush out the door, when we don't come home on time, for when those things are difficult. Thank you for that. For the girls, we couldn't do it without you. It's been a busy year, 3 promotional processes, 2 kids, lots going on, and then girls, we couldn't do it without your help. So thank you.
Neil Doss is not able to be with us today for his promotion due to a family emergency. The next promotion is Dalton Majors, and he will be introduced by Chief Brian Long.
That font issue's getting ready to bite me. You've heard most of the folks say when they come up to introduce somebody, you heard me speak in Glover earlier about my own situation, but it is truly equally as honoring to be chosen to introduce someone who has reached a milestone in their career and is being given the opportunity to be promoted. So for that, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on your behalf. Captain Dalton Majors is recently promoted in that position under the Division of Community Relations Division. He is the proud father of Riley, who is now awake. And his wife, Shelley's here with him as well, along with his father, Oscar, and his mother, Jane. He was hired in 2002, has 16 years of tenure with the Burlington Police Department. He and Donnie, I think, shared a little bit in common. His original degree was in forestry management, Western Carolina, but he also saw an interest in pursuing law enforcement at a very early age. In 2017, he graduated from the Administrative Officers Management Program in Raleigh. It's a part of NC State University. It's a program very much similar to the FBI Academy, a long-term commitment to leadership, and graduated from that. During his tenure here, he served as in patrol and CID, vice, He was a DEA TFO, which is a task force officer with the Department of the Drug Enforcement Administration, where he won 2 awards for his case. They're called OSADF cases. They're huge narcotics investigation involving serious violent offenders. And on 2 occasions, he won awards for developing and prosecuting high-level drug suspects. He was a member for quite some time of our special response team. He was a canine handler, and he's also an instructor in physical fitness and also firearms. The 2 things that he's currently assigned to Community Relations Division. That was new to Dalton, completely new to Dalton. But I have been extremely impressed. Community Relations Division not only encompasses some sworn personnel that do community engagement, school resource officers, traffic division, but also encompasses a very important civilian portion of our department, and that's communications. There are so many things involved with our radio communications and professionalism of that organization, but he has truly made a huge commitment up front, not only to the sworn side of things, which would have been much, much easier, but I've seen him dedicate a lot of time and energy working with the communication staff to help them in any way that he could. Try to avoid as much humor as I can, but I just need to use a little bit here, just because 5 years ago, I would not have thought I would be here, probably stand here introducing Captain Majors to you. We worked together in criminal investigations. I was always right, he was always wrong. But it depended on if you flipped the coin, because we were both very young, very energetic, very strong-willed. But through a process over 5 years, you know, I guess a lot of times it's easy to sit in the crowd and think, okay, well, the assistant chief's talking about the captain, so probably the captain learned a lot from the assistant chief. But he has the fortitude and he had the bravery to challenge me correctly at the times that I need to be challenged, right? And to demonstrate to me that if you thought about it this way, that's a nice way of saying you're wrong, but think about it differently. So I appreciate the many times that you've done that over the years. I think through that process we've both grown. I appreciate your efforts in helping in my growth as well. So I wrote down a few words that I thought just really resonated with me with regard to Dalton. Passionate. Does anybody disagree? No, I didn't think so. He is a passionate person, but he's also committed and loyal. Commitment to the Burlington Police Department is what I have in quotations. Dalton has he got his bachelor's degree at an early age, entered law enforcement. He's now obtained a master's degree, and probably the doors for this young man are whatever door he wanted to open, he could push open. But he has selected to stay here and be a part of this team, and is a dedicated member of the Burlington Police Department. Multitasker. I had a conversation with an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago, about the different projects that he's involved in and managing along with his staff, and they are many. I wanted to take just a couple of minutes to tell you about a couple. Intelligence-led policing came really strong into the agency a couple of years ago, and he was a lieutenant assigned to patrol at the time. And he, along with the other lieutenants at the time, really deserve the credit on where that program is today. You heard the chief speak earlier about 20% reduction in violent crime. That's 20% reduction in actual victims of violent crime. So if you think about it that way, how many victims of violent crime have been helped by the efforts of he and the other lieutenants at that time. And the other one that I think gives you a peek into what kind of person he is he's recently engaged in a process with a group out of Washington, D.C. That group focuses on harm reduction and slowing the entry rate of minority youth. So African American youth in our community, I won't get into the statistics, but they are entering into the juvenile justice population at a much, much quicker rate than their counterparts or other folks. And I've seen over the course of 3 months, you know, it's something that he could have worked with the group and already have moved away from, but he's not. He himself has invested many, many hours in sitting in conversations across this county with stakeholders in trying to find out how do we still appropriately apply the law, but at the same time continue to evaluate and make sure that we do that in an equitable way. And I applaud you for your efforts in that area. I will wrap this up. A lot of times, and I've done several of these in the past, or had the opportunity to do several of these in the past, and I always go to the file, is what I call it. I go to the file and I look for the awards. And I went, he's got awards, and I thought, well, you know, there's got to be a different way. You would expect the recently promoted assistant chief, who's been supported by the recently selected captain, to have a lot of great things to say about it. So I chose to go into what we call guardian tracking, which is a performance management. I said, you know, let's see what his peers say. The people that work for him, they have an opportunity to say some things. Most recently, he tried to, or was not tried, he's being successful, but he was engaged in a conversation with a new hire. The manager of this division, where the hiring was occurring, put a note in his folder that said, "You spoke professionally to her and demonstrated a high level of compassion to her needs. She told me that she's very appreciative of your time and effort with the information that you provided her." He's a captain. Quite honestly, at the final stage of hiring, yes, he gets involved, but typically we don't see captains involved in the direct hiring process. Second one was High Five Fridays. We do quite a few of those across the county at the elementary schools. We bring a boom box. Sergeant Matherly plays some of the worst music you've ever heard. We stand out there and dance and high five. Yeah, I'd like to see the captain go to one of those. He's regularly at these events, out there with his staff, high-fiving, kindergartners, and just having a good time. So he's working with his staff. It's a difference to manage staff, and then there's a big difference in getting out there and working with staff. They appreciated that. Lockdown drill, the same thing. We do multiple lockdown drills across the community and their school systems to ensure the safety of our kids. He's got staff that could go do that alone. But no, he goes to schools and he manages those things. These are just some examples of, I think when you look backwards and you start thinking about the things over a period of time that play to the favor of this department, you have to start looking and saying that people with the character that you have, people with the commitment that you have and the passion that you have, allow us to be the department that we are in certain way that we do. For that, I'd like to be one of the first to congratulate you on your promotion to the rank of captain.
Today. It's the first time my daughter has ever fell asleep in my arms. When you know her, so you understand that. So I'm going to say the same thing, basically, what I do stand before each and every one of you, humbled and appreciative today. I'm humbled for this opportunity, and I'm appreciative for each part that every one of you have played in my development as a leader. More importantly, I'm appreciative of those of you who have believed in me, supported me, and made me into the officer I am today. Although I've been chosen for this promotional opportunity, I understand that my work is not complete. I want each of you to know that I've accepted this position of leadership with understanding that my responsibility is to each of you and it's not complete. I understand that I must continue to grow as a student and leader of this agency, and you have my promise that I will make every effort to fill that obligation. I want to thank my parents who are here tonight for installing the principles of hard work, compassion, and doing the right thing for the right reasons. You set the groundwork for my success at a very early age, and you've continued those preachings throughout my life. I want to thank my wife for believing in me, pushing me, and honestly just giving me perspective. Without you, I would not be here today. You are the rock in my life, and the only one that truly understands me. Lastly, I want to thank my little girl for giving me purpose and joy. Love you all. Thank you.
And last but absolutely not least, Captain Todd Long is to be promoted today, and he will be introduced by Captain Brett Curry.
Good afternoon. It gives me a great honor to introduce James Todd Long, aka Todd. When I asked Todd to give me some information about him, I could say, even though I've known Todd for a long time, the first thing he told me was, you can just say Captain Todd Long and drop the mic. So I thought about doing that. But then he sent me an email with some things and said he asked me to say some nice things about him. So hopefully by the time I finish, I'll have some nice things to say about him. Just a little bit about Todd. Todd loves fishing, golfing, and spending time with his family. I'm not going to say how good he is at fishing and golfing, but I'm just going to say it's a work in progress. I've known Todd for a long time. We played on the softball team together. The name of the team was Lab Corps. Eventually he changed it to Misfits. And we both couldn't figure out how we went from Lab Corps to Misfits. We didn't know whether it was just a bad team or we just couldn't find sponsors for the team, so they came up with Misfits. While playing softball, Todd, we talked about the police department. He was working at Lowe's at the time. And so he asked me about the police department, and so we started carrying on a lot of conversation about the police department. And finally, one day he decided to go ahead and put in an application at the police department, which I'm glad he finally did. Todd has a strong work ethic. He's dependable, and he's a people person. He has a great personality. He gets along with everyone, and he's very approachable. Todd obtained his criminal justice degree from Mount Olive College. And he just recently, last year, completed AOMP, which is Administrative Officers Management Program at NC State. He's been employed with the PD for 20 years. He's worked in various divisions, such as Patrol, K-9, Special Operations, and also a sergeant in CID and Special Operations. He's also a lieutenant in Criminal Investigation Division. Todd was promoted to the rank of captain in June 1st, 2018, and currently he's assigned to the Professional Standards Division, where he oversees recruitment, training, and records. One good thing I can say about Todd is he's a Dallas Cowboys fan. The only negative we talk about is he's an NC State fan. So I recently completed NC State, the management program at NC State, and they gave me a wolf pack and all that. And I refused to put it on my desk, and he thought I was going to go convert over to an NC State fan, but it's not going to happen.
That's always changed.
So with Todd today here, and to pin his badge is his father, Harry Long. Todd is, he's my brother. He's a good friend. People also always get us confused for each other because we look so much alike. There's probably a glare out there that you can't see good because of our shiny heads. So without further ado, I introduce Captain Todd Long. Congratulations.
That's okay. Put the top in.
speech today. My wife's at work, she couldn't make it. Last time she was here, she told me that I get long-winded. Well, it's a good thing she's not here because I prepared one anyway. No, I'm just kidding. I'm humble. I feel like I've taken a little portion from previous leaders in the audience. I see Billy out there. Billy and I work together for a while. See Assistant Chief Burdick, I think that's Major Gregory over there. I see him. You know, there's Ron Hall, and there's countless other people that I've had the opportunity to work for my 20 years as a law enforcement officer. I'm truly humbled. What you see is what you get with me. I can't do anything about this picture here. It's just permanent. Unfortunately, I try to change every day, but I'm a down-to-earth type of guy. I love what I do. Brett said that I'm a people person. I am. I'm a people person. I truly believe in treating others the way I want to be treated. I'm not going to ever say that I don't have a bad day at work, because I do. But my biggest process is not to take my bad days out on the people that I work around and people who work for me. I'm truly thankful as far as that goes. I want to thank the two assistant chiefs and the chief. I recently had a conversation with Assistant Chief Gaddis, and we got to talking about promotion and being promoted on who you are, what you bring to the table, what type of person you are, what you have to offer the police department. It was a pretty intense conversation, but he knows how I am. I truly believe that we all at some point have gotten to where we are in life because of what we do. I truly believe that. I'm going to continue to believe that. What we put forth and what we bring in life is what we remember for. That's what I want to be remembered for. I want to be remembered for being a compassionate person, working hard, earning everything that I've received. I've been here 20 years. I truly love the Burlington Police Department. I'm compassionate about everyone who works here. I have a lot of friends at the department, and that means a lot. One of the most interesting things about the department is we're family. We have issues. I can pick up the phone and call the chief, two assistant chiefs, or even a police officer, and we will be there for each other. That's the greatest thing about this department, because we are all family. We take it personal when someone gets hurt at the police department, or someone in their family gets hurt, they're sick. So in conclusion, I'm blessed. I mean, I've got the best job in the world. I work for the best leaders in the world. I think that's indicative because they lead from the top. They instill their beliefs in me. So I pass that down, and it's a great honor. So again, I said I wasn't going to be long-winded, but you know, it's kind of hard not to talk about things that you truly love in life. And I'm blessed. You know, God's put me here for a reason. He's put me here to serve the citizens of Burlington. He's put me here in this position to serve as a captain for the upcoming officers, for the existing officers here. And you know, I'm passionate about what I do. I love what I do, and I love all of y'all. So God bless. Have a great day.
For the final bit, I'm going to call on Assistant Chief Brian Long to come explain what we're doing with some new pairs of partners. Chief?
Darcel, I hope you read the flyer. We can get our two newest canine handlers to come in with their two newest canine partners. Darcel is, from a distance, loves dogs. A far, far, far distance. The two officers that have come to the stage on y'all's right is MPO Comer, Jason Comer, and handler Carly Swiggett. He is a police officer and new canine handler. These two dogs just recently, in the past few weeks, were released from their 9-week training program, where they learn to track individuals that are missing, like the way we like to put that, and need to be located. They also do narcotics drug work, and they do article and scent drug work. The 9 weeks is a very intensive program over not just Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, but they do night work. There's a lot of hard physical work in this activity, and they have done a great job. Is Chris Smith in the room? I saw him earlier. He's in the back of the room. Lieutenant Chris Smith did the pre-work on selecting these two dogs and a new canine vendor for us, and I just wanted to publicly say you did a great job. I think that these dogs look great. I heard great things about the training. Just so you get a sense, when we onboard these dogs, they're in the range of just a little bit under 2 years, or right around 2 years old. And we usually get about 7 years of service out of a police canine. That's a commitment, day one, from a canine handler who will bond with that canine to the Burlington Police Department to pretty much handle that dog and care for that dog for 7 years. I have no doubt that Jason, you will do it as you've done it before, which we appreciate. And Carly, you'll do a great job as well. Please join me in welcoming our new canine partners, Sully and Gunner and Coda. Gunner and Coda.
It's awesome, guys. Congratulations on your success. As we wrap up, I privately chuckle from time to time as the officers, sergeants, lieutenants make their remarks, and they'll occasionally thank us for giving them a promotion, right? Gang, we haven't given you a thing. You have earned a promotion through your diligence, hard work, perseverance, and the character that you bring to everything you do. I think that if you've earned the promotion, then we give you the responsibility to lead our folks. And for those of you in the audience, they know, but on the back page is our Policing with a Purpose statement, 6 bulleted statements. Gentlemen and ladies in the civilian realm, it is our obligation to protect all life. It is our obligation to nurture and protect democracy, to provide service, to protect the community from harm, and to treat every single person with dignity and respect. And the obligation that you leave this room with is to do that for the 55,000 people that live here, the 125,000 people that drive by us on the interstate and might choose to stop here for gas, and anyone else that we encounter through any mechanism of communication. It is your ultimate responsibility to ensure that this police department remains the very best police department in all of America. That is our absolute expectation of you. And so that, I will give you that, and you take that with you. So as we conclude, I thank you all very much. I know this ran a bit long. Kathy Hikes is here. See, thank you for joining us. I don't know when you got here, but I'm so happy you were able to make it. Kathy Hikes is Mayor Pro Tem, so we appreciate her being here, along with all of you. I think we missed some photo ops at times, so for any of the promotees, if you'd like to recreate a photo op, please feel free to do that. Ramona will continue to take pictures. While that's going on, we've got some snacks out there. Please stay for some time of fellowship. Congratulate everyone for the promotions, and thank you all for remaining with us for this lengthy promotional ceremony. So thank you.